Welcome back to the letters that John wrote. We just finished chapter 3 of the first letter, and we're going to go into chapter 4. John kind of shifts gears in a very complimentary way that's going to help us even understand the 3 previous chapters. Even though he didn't write in chapters, he shifts gears here, and we look at that as chapter 4. Let's pick up in verse 1. He says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." What he is talking about here is not like spirits that float around in the air that we can't see or that are disembodied spirits. He's talking about the issue of a man's spirit, where he's connected, when he's not connected, and the difference between the truth that that spirit of a man is preaching or teaching, or the non-truth, or the lie, or the falsehood that that spirit of a man may be teaching. And so he tells us that we are to test the spirits to see whether they are from God. Well, that's all sounding really good, but how do we know how to do that? And that's where we pick up again in verse 2. He says, "By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God." Well, that can mean a couple of things, but it really only means one of them. And some people mistake this. They say, well, then if you just believe that Jesus Christ is a historical figure, and he literally was a human being that walked on the earth, then you're okay. He doesn't have to be divine. But that's not what John is saying. He says very specifically, he says that Jesus Christ is from God. And when we look at that in the Greek, we realize that he is God in the flesh. And that's where a lot of people get a little confused, because when we bring that original text, or those original manuscripts that we have copies of, into English, they have to pass through the brain of a man, and he's got to put it in a language or in a set of words that can be comprehensible. And this is where sometimes it might be a little shy of the mark in English, but when we know what it's saying, the truth of the matter is that Jesus Christ is God in the flesh. And that's what he's saying here. And he's saying that's the truth. When you pin somebody down to what they're teaching, and you say, is Jesus Christ God in the flesh, or is he just a human being that was a very, very good, teacher and philosopher and moral person? And that's what makes the difference. No, he is God in the flesh. In the contextual setting here, this is late 1st century, 80s, 90s AD. And so we have to understand, first of all, that we have to look at scriptures from the original intent, where they were written to, who they were written to, why they were written, and then we have to look at the culture and the society in which received these. Also understanding somewhat the spirituality, the faith of the person who was being inspired by God to write. That helps us a lot. And we don't do that a lot. We're going to pick up and kind of build this verse and a few others after it in our next session.